It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire, our mission is to empower, and our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. In this episode, we have the one and only Gregg Matthews. He's in the building, talking about how men can lead while fathering through the noise without losing their family, their purpose, or their identity. This will be interesting. So I can't wait to figure out how this happens. What's going on, Gregg? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Shay. I'm so happy to be joining you on your show tonight. I look forward to being able to offer some useful information to yourself and the audience.
Thanks a lot, man. I'm glad you're here. Let's just answer the question on everybody's mind, especially mine, and I'm sure a lot of the men out there, which is I'll say this, what does it mean for men to lead their families with love? That's the caveat, with love, during a time in the world where there's so many distractions and a lot of noise. What does that even mean these days?
So growing up, I would have asked the same question because you always hear about love, love, love. All you see is hearts, rainbows, kisses, Cupid, and a real misdirection. And so mine comes from a biblical base. When I really was able to dive into God's word, and it talks about how love covers a multitude of sins. Because I'm faith-based, you know what I mean? I love God. And so if we as men, as husbands, if we want to really lead with love, we can't be ready to pounce on every single thing that's wrong. When the kids are acting up, when they're not cleaning, when we may have a disagreement with the wife, when the son ain't doing his chores, the daughter is not communicating the way that I think that she should communicate because she's going through that phase in life that all young people go through called puberty, right? And so we have to understand that I came to the understanding that learning how to lead with love, it doesn't mean you're going to say everything perfectly. It doesn't mean that every word you say, every intention is going to come out exactly how you intended, but it means continuously showing up, whether they want to hear you, whether they want to see you, and letting them know, hey, I love you, and my intentions is to help you. If I made a mistake, if I missed it, this was my intention. And so if you say I'm off, help me understand it. So it's that dual relationship where it's not just a dictator, but it's more bringing everyone into what it is that you want to accomplish as a family. Because if we're working together as a goal, we can get a lot more done together than we can if I'm just walking around like, do this, do that, do that, do that. I ain't got time to be stressed out. I saw how that worked in so many of my other mentors and friends' life, and I said, I do not want that. I want to make sure it's inclusive. And the caveat is, it helps your young people and your family. It helps them understand how they can also better communicate when they have their own families and when they get out into the world. And so when we talked about leading with love, it's leading with compassion, intentionality, and understanding that it ain't about me. It's going to be a group effort to make this thing happen.
Spot on, by the way. And before we get into your background and how famous you are and all the wonderful things you've done in the world, we'll get into that. Some of you, you're like, who is this guy talking, Shay? He's making sense, but I don't even know this guy, okay? Don't worry. We'll get to that. We'll get to who he is. Some of you already read his bio anyway. You're like, I read his bio. Shit, I Googled him before I showed up. But I'm going to ask a selfish question, and maybe this might be on the minds of some of you that are watching, but I guess many men, I'll put myself in that category, they work hard every single day to provide for their families. And I guess the question is, how do we lead and do all these wonderful things you're saying to do, chase success for our families without really losing the connection with our families? If that makes sense, because you talked about being there when they're going through puberty, or being there when they're getting their first driver's license, or being there to do their chores. But if we're off chasing success, whether it's as an entrepreneur, maybe some people are staying late at work, others may be in the military and have careers that takes them away. So for a short period of time, so they can get some promotion. So I know it's a loaded question, so let me narrow it down. How can men who are chasing success, how do they make sure they don't lose connection with their family while they're trying to provide? Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, yeah, it's very reasonable, and I get the question. It is, like you mentioned, a loaded question, because the main key point is you really have to understand your family, their personalities, how they respond to certain situations, because that's going to dictate how you approach it. Like you mentioned, going away with the military. You also mentioned pursuing those goals professionally. Like all that stuff you have to do because it's your makeup as a man, it's your makeup as a provider, as a husband, as a leader. But if you're not communicating it and you're assuming because I'm doing, they already understand, then you're already behind the eight ball. And so if I want to go out and like, hey, I'm working towards accomplishing this dollar sign. I'm working towards this house. I want to work towards this piece. This get us out of this debt. I want to go back to school and accomplish this degree. If you include them in the process and explain to them some of the sacrifices, now they may not like it. They may not. It may be like, hey, we're not signing up for this. And then you continue that conversation like, I understand it, but this is what we're working towards, and we can't get this unless I go do this, and this is what I may miss in that process. So I think if you played any sports, if you participated in any type of team event, there's always going to be a sacrifice. I think a lot of times when we make the mistake as men, we say, I'm gonna be the sacrifice for my family. I'm gonna be that sacrifice, but we don't communicate that. So we assume they see us sacrificing, so they understand. Yeah, Dad's taking care of it. They're like, no, Dad ain't here. I don't know where Dad's at. Dad comes home, all he does is sit on the couch. Some men grab a beer, some men grab a glass of wine. They sit on the couch and they go to sleep. They ain't, don't nobody talk to me. Y'all know I've sacrificed all week, all month, but we have to communicate it. Whether it's what they want to hear, or they don't want to hear. We still have to let them be a part of the process because in turn it's going to help them identify what they want in their life, right? So each what it says, each one reach one. So as we are reaching and communicating to our own family, it helps us better prepare them for what's going to come in life.
Spot on, by the way. Good answer. And this is probably a good time for us to slow down, and then we'll speed back up because there's some folks are saying he's making sense, Shay. I'm hearing him, but what's his backstory? Like, who is this guy that's giving us all this advice? What has his story been like? What has his career been like? What does his marriage look like? And they're just meeting you for the very first time. So I think it's a good time for us to slow down. Take a few minutes if you would, and you probably already know the question, which is tell the audience, who are you? And more importantly, what's the backstory that really led you to saying, you know what, helping families find love, live with love, and not be like the guidepost for what they do and be successful. What was the backstory that led you to being so passionate about what you're doing now?
So it's kind of funny. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So I grew up in the inner city. I used to walk past Dr. King's home, all the black monuments, civil rights movements. My grandmother even sat in some of those movements. So me coming from the city of Atlanta and being raised in an era where, hey, we need to make sure that you're successful. You need to take pride in what you do and who you are. I grew up in an environment where we had like four HBCUs within 5 minutes of us. So there was so much educational influence. We had a lot of Muslims used to come into the schools and do a lot of support. We used to have a lot of church organizations come into school and support. I remember walking down the street and say, young men used to have this problem. We walk down the street with our heads down like this. And I would always have a black man be like, hey, black man, pick your head up. Don't you ever walk with your head down. Total strangers. And so what happened was as I grew in life and experienced some things, there's this show. I don't know if you heard of it, Jay. It's called The Cosby Show.
Oh yeah, I'm
So
part of that
what?
generation, by the way. That's why you and I
Yes,
got the same haircut over here. You know,
yes,
I'm
yes,
part of that. I do say haircut, okay, because we're shaved, ladies and gentlemen. We ain't bald. We choose to shave some of this off. But
hey,
anyway, back
that's
over to you.
right.
This is
That's
all
right.
about
Hey,
you, man.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so watching that show, because I also grew up in a single family household. Now I knew my dad. My dad was around, but I also saw some deficiencies that was there that I would have liked because of what I also saw in the Cosby Show. I wanted a dad in the home. I wanted my mom in the home, which my mom was. And I wanted that family dynamic where it was very playful, very energetic, but everyone was also pursuing goals and everyone was also still making mistakes in life. And so that helped me put a frame around what I wanted for my family and for my life. And it was very healthy. And then the next show came out called It's a Different World. And so I was like, okay, this is what I want my college experience to be similar to too. And so as me as a young man growing up in the inner city of Atlanta, seeing these dynamics, having these experiences, and also seeing some things with things that happen in large inner cities, like the effect that the cocaine had on black communities, the effect that drugs had on black communities. There was this inner city squad called the Red Dog. in Atlanta. And if anyone is familiar with Atlanta, Georgia, if you say the Red Dogs, their blood pressure may spike a little bit because they were a drug task force, which basically they would come in any community and they would even put grandma on the ground. So they didn't care. And so me seeing all of these dynamics growing up, it really shaped what I wanted out of my life. And the more it shaped me, what I noticed was it began to alienate me from my peers because a lot of times I would get picked on, laughed at, talked about, called church boy, called Mister Want to do the right thing. Like I would hear all the jokes, right? And I was also a good athlete. I was also one of the top athletes in the city. I was also being recruited by D1 schools coming out of high school. And so usually those two dynamics don't happen. You usually are not getting clowned and you're also high achieving to a degree. Usually that's not the dynamic. But that was my dynamic, what I was experiencing. And so growing up in the inner city of Atlanta, going through that, having those experiences, and being able to fortify what I wanted. It made me more determined, or maybe more stubborn about what my goals were. The family I wanted, the wife I wanted, the children I wanted, the lifestyle I wanted to live, and the impact I wanted to have on my community. There was also, I don't know if you remember the Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club. That was before the Reagan era when they killed all the Boys and Girls Clubs. They killed the funding, so to speak. And
Yeah.
so it went from being free to now having to pay. And so I grew up in an era where we still didn't have to pay. And so that Boys and Girls Club helped me a lot. It helped me learn problem solving skills. It helped me learn how to deal with teams. It helped me learn some of the more, how can I say it, the artsy fartsies. I got a little bit more artsy fartsy. And so, and then there was also this community in Atlanta called Cabbage Town. If you know Killer Mike, you heard him talk about Cabbage Town a little bit. It was like the only residing predominantly, how can I say it, white community that was
Mm-hmm.
left in the inner city. And I remember going through that community every day to the Boys and Girls Club, and me and my little brother would literally get chased by dogs. They would sick their dogs on us as we're going to the Boys and Girls Club, literally. And so for me, there was so many dynamics that made me realize I want more. I'm not going to back down, and I'm determined to be able to have an impact in my community, regardless of what others are trying to portray on me. And so that's a little bit of my background. There's marriage in there, there's military in there, there's college. There's so many other dynamics that we probably don't have enough time to get into. But I can tell you, it's enough to where it lit a fire in me to be very intentional and serious about everything that I do. Because they joke when I was coming up, my friends were like, man, you too serious. I'm like, dude, look at what's happening in our communities. Look at how women are being mistreated. Look how children are going without, parents in the home. Like, how can y'all be around playing and thinking it's playful when there's so much need in our own community? So that's a little bit of my background. I hope I didn't take too long on that explanation.
No, that's spot on. You shared a lot. You talked about you as a father and you in the military. You grew up in hot Atlanta, and a lot of different components of that. And as you were speaking, I'm just curious. Maybe you can share a moment when becoming a better leader in any one of those areas. Maybe it was sports. You said you was recruited by D1, but you becoming a better leader. How do you connect that with you being a better father? Or a husband, if I can say it like that. Does that make sense? Because you've learned
Yeah.
these skills that made you be a leadership position. How does that correlate to you leading as a husband or leading as a father?
So, like I mentioned earlier, how in leadership, sometimes as men, you get this dictatorship kind of dynamic where I say you do. What I learned in playing college sports and I learned in the military is usually those leaders were very toxic because they didn't know how to communicate. They knew how to dictate, but they didn't know how to communicate. And so I struggled when I originally joined the military because I didn't like the style of communication that a lot of people did because I knew, and that's because I knew what was going on with that soldier. I knew what was going on with that person. I knew more about them than that leader did. And so for me, I was determined to be like, no, there's a different way of doing this. There are different styles of leadership. There isn't dictatorship has a purpose and it has a place, but it can't be dominant in every arena. And so I began to realize that when I actually would spend time to get to know soldiers, spend time to get to know my teammates, spend time to get to know my professors in college, spend time to really volunteer within the community, my voice, I didn't have to say as much. And I had a greater impact because they knew what my heart and my intentions were. And so when I translate that to fatherhood, when I realized my children knew I cared, I didn't have to say as much. When they knew that I cared, they did not want to disappoint me. They didn't want to do something that would make them feel like that I didn't appreciate them or love them as much. And so I began to understand that those dynamics work whether you're dealing with adolescents, whether you're dealing with college students, or whether you're dealing with adults. When you have an individual's trust and they believe that you care, they will make the necessary changes to be able to grow in the areas they need to develop. And so, leading with love and leading as a leadership and growing even as a husband, all those dynamics cross all of those fields. They cross, they intersect, they all have a meaningful impact regardless of age or experience. So that's kind of where I see how it all has connected and came into play for me.
What do you enjoy most about what you're doing now? Because you seem to get excited when you talk about it. You seem to feel like you're making this huge difference in the world. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what do you enjoy most about the path you're on now, helping folks really lead with love?
Actually seeing when the dots connect, seeing when that light comes on, and then you see someone who was relatively reserved, and all of a sudden you see they come out of their box to communicate. You see a husband who starts off furious, she get on my nerve, and then he goes from that to, you know what, I can communicate better. I can do a better job of listening to her regardless of how angry I am. Or you may even see a spouse. So we do the Forever Us couples trips. You may see couples go on these trips and they're tense in the beginning, and then by the middle to end of the trip, when we kind of depressed all of that stress, boom, y'all see them come alive. So for me, it's seeing that life, seeing a little spark. Because I know some water, some may plant the seed, but I know ultimately it's not up to me to make sure that it comes to fruition. But whenever they come, I get excited when people come out across our path. We have an opportunity to have some sort of impact in that process of them growing.
I love it. And what do you say to the person, the entrepreneur, or maybe the person that's a dualpreneur, they work a full time job and they're a full time entrepreneur, and they're listening now and like, Shay, I'm a little out of balance. I hear what he's saying, but does he have one or two or three steps that I could do to kind of get back reconnected? I kind of got off track, and if that's you, it's okay. If not, maybe you'll benefit. And again, it's a loaded question because many of you are at different places and spaces and maturity in your career and in your life and other areas. But I'm gonna ask him to do his best to maybe give you maybe two or three steps, and he can't give away all the secrets, but maybe two or three things that you could do to help you kind of get back on track or get reconnected with the family if you got a little bit off track. And I've been there before, okay? So you're not alone if you're watching now. This is a good time to kind of lean in. So I guess the question I'm asking you is what's two or three things that the person can do that's kind of got a little bit off track? They've been chasing it, and as they're listening to you, like, you know what? I need to get reconnected. What's the first step? That is go home and say, hey, everybody, I'm back. I'm in charge. I mean, what should they do? I mean, I know I'm being funny and it's a very serious question. It really is. But I'm curious what you're going to say, but what would you say to that person?
I'll be general because I know you have a very broad audience, and I will use myself as an example. I remember going through phases in my life where I was just felt overwhelmed. I felt like nothing that I couldn't communicate right. I felt like I was always trying to find someone to explain things to, but then I felt like I was oversharing, or I felt like I was doing too much, or they maybe didn't understand. And so I took a step back, took a breath, swallowed my pride, and I got a therapist slash coach, right, to kind of find an outlet, someone whose core purpose is what my need was. And it took me about 3 or 4 months to get build that trust, right? Because there's no this like wanting that it just doesn't. It's not going to happen like that. You have to work through processes because there's things that we don't want to identify. So for me, I went through the process of identifying that I need to be heard. I know that my voice has to have weight, and being able to communicate and being able to express myself was important, and being able to go through all my thoughts was important. And so being able to do that allowed me to it allowed my stress levels to go from here to maybe to more of an even level because now I had a place to communicate. The next thing for me was I became more active. I literally started like people don't want to hear this part. I started running more. I started working out more. I started being more active because I began to realize that sometimes I was waking up in the morning, let's go, ready to go. But then I realized I was starting my day stressed out. And so when I got up in the morning, I do like a 20, 30-minute run or do some sort of activity. Or maybe it was reading. Maybe it was listening to some soft music for 15 to 20 minutes where before I jump on any social media. So I can kind of pace how I want my day to go. So I found me someone who I could build that trust in to communicate, who I thought had wisdom to share. And then I found another way to manage the stress. Now I got a lot more ways that I did, but like you mentioned, I know we don't have a lot of time, but those for myself are two things for me personally that I know have worked. And it continuously benefits me because my stamina has increased, right? And then it also I don't have to try to put the weight that I walk around with on everyone that I communicate with in these different arenas. I have a set place to dump the trash, so to speak. So I would say identifying, and I know it sounds easy, but identifying a place to where you can kind of offload all of your stress and then finding an activity that you enjoy doing that also helps you pace out your day or pace out your week. And then continue to build on those things to see what you can add or what you can adjust to kind of help you stay in that pace. Because being an entrepreneur is stressful. Being a full time employee is stressful. Being married, entrepreneur, full time employee, children, community involvement, and everything else you're building, it is very stressful. And so the biggest word I could use, which people don't like, boundaries. The more I set boundaries around friendships, I set boundaries around working relationships, I set boundaries around professional relationships. People didn't like it, and some people still dealing with it. I'll be honest with you. But at the end of the day, me fight me.
Said so well, man. I love it, and it's a good segue as you were saying that, and you're so authentic. You're speaking from the heart. I appreciate it. We can hear it in your voice rate and your tonality. I'm just curious. We have a segment here, and this might be a good segue called "Today is my January 1st," and it's an opportunity for us to find out if you've ever had a setback. Maybe his life's been perfect. So far, his life's been perfect. Guys walks by monuments, goes by down a land. I mean, his life seems to be perfect. But today is my January 1st. For those folks that are watching, who tune in every night, you know we're about to do 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In fact, you can go and say those words if you want. Today is my January 1st. You wait for that. Happy New Year to you, by the way. For everyone else who's tuning in for the very first time, today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny that past is back there, the past no longer really equals the future. And so my question for Greg on the other side is really twofold. Number one, was there ever a time that you had a setback? Again, maybe his life's been perfect. We're going to figure this out. And if you did, how did you bounce back from it? What did you do to come back from it? That's number one. And number two, just when you hear the words, today is my January 1st, what do you even hear? What goes through your mind?
I love it. I love it. I love the energy. So the first one, I remember it was my junior year in college, and that was the worst season we'd had in football. I think we won one game. I was literally depressed. I was ready to walk away from football, walk away from college, give up on all my dreams because I was like, this is terrible. And I was on the verge of flunking out of college because I had like a negative GPA because that semester and a half was the worst. I had stuff going on at home, back home with my mom. I had stuff going on with my brothers. I had stuff that wasn't working, financial stresses, I was wanting more scholarship money. We weren't winning. People getting playing time that I knew shouldn't be. Like it was stressful. I was just like a ball of anger, frustration, and depression. And so I remember walking into, laying in my bed one night, and I was listening to this video, and someone was giving a real encouraging message, and I heard it and I broke. And for me, that was the first time in my life where all the weight finally came off. Where I literally felt like, and I've heard this thing where I felt like the elephant's off my back. No, I literally, after being able to really cry and let go of all the stuff I was stressing about, all the things I was trying to fix. worried about my grades, school, football, how none of my goals are going to happen. I let all of it go. Not that I didn't care, I just let it go. And the moment I let it all go, everything went in a 180. Everything went 180 for me. I got more money. I didn't need money from the football program no more. I had the financial department was giving me money. I was able to make the dean's list. I was all of a sudden, I went from this depressed, angry male to now all of a sudden being voted. Now I went to a PWI, so I was voted the homecoming king at the PWI.
That's hilarious.
So think about that. Yeah. So I went from one extreme to the absolute other extreme. I traveled. I was able to do so many things. And it was like that moment right there shifted my mentality. I went from this angry, got to make it happen, got to do this right, can't make no mistakes person, got to look like everything's together, to realizing, oh, life is a mess. Okay. So I ain't got to stress about it because life is a mess for everybody. So I just need to pace myself and go at the pace of the things that I'm trying to pursue, and then trusting God with it, and boom. I'm not saying I ain't still have struggles, but I'm saying that life got a whole lot easier, and I went in a direction that has set me on the trajectory that I've been on. Now you said, what is my January 1st moment? I've had a bunch of January 1st moments. So I thought about it when you asked that question. I've had so many of them. I would push back just a little bit to say that I think whenever we're at a point of transition, we have to understand that as a January 1st moment, because everything that we go through, every experience, it shapes what we're to do on that next step. Because I used to be like, man, I wish I hadn't went through that. I wish this hadn't happened. I wish I hadn't experienced that. But if I had not gone through any of that stuff, I wouldn't know you, Shay. I wouldn't be right here right now, Shay. We wouldn't be having this conversation had I not gone through all that stuff. So I look forward to, because I just had a January 1st moment last year in October at my
Hmm.
employer in the healthcare. Then I had a January 1st moment in March of this year. Then I had a January 1st moment beginning of June when I released my first book. So it has just been like, God is like, okay, I got this. How much are you going to trust me? And so for me, it's been that journey of faith, that journey of trust, mistakes as well. But I'm like, I'm not getting off the path that I'm on. So I hope I answered that question well. I'm not sure. I got a little excited.
Yeah, you answered it, man. Spot on. I love the answer. Many January 1st moments is the big takeaway. So yours, as you're watching right now, this moment could be your January 1st moment. I'm curious, by the way, Greg, when your days come to an end, having to be a believer, you don't have to be a believer, but when your days come to an end and your family looks back, your children look back, and your community looks back on your life, what would you want them to even remember about Greg? What do you want them to say about you, man? What did your life represent?
More than those outside of my family, I really would want my kids to know that, man, my dad loved us. My dad did whatever it took. He didn't waver, and he loved us into purpose and into our destiny. And he did not accept anything less. That's it. I just want my kids, and I want my kids, and whenever we have grandkids, 10 years from now, ain't in no hurry. But whenever we get to that point, I just want that to be a legacy of true love and knowing that, my dad, my granddad, my husband, my father, he really was serious about making sure that we did what was right, and he wasn't all money driven. So, yeah.
Well said. As we come down the home stretch, I got two questions. The first question is, what does success look like for you where you are in your family in your life right now, in your career? What does success look like for you? What does it feel like for you?
Man, I love being able to take family vacations at least once a year. I love being able to travel with my wife on a big vacation every 2 to 3 months. I love being able to just hop on a plane at a whim and be able to go check on my parents. I enjoy being able to go and support friends when they're doing events. I love being able just to show up and bless a group of kids who are in the store shopping, who didn't even realize that, hey, a blessing is coming for you today, and here it is. I love just doing the unexpected things that pop in my heart. I love when I don't have to be. Success looks like to me is being able to move at a pace of faith without the restrictions of obligations.
Good way to look at success, man. I take some big takeaways from that. As we come down the home stretch, for those folks that are watching, first, before we do the last question, I'm curious, what do you do for fun? You're not out saving the world. You're not helping people live a life of love. You're not out traveling with the wife. You're not out traveling with the kids. You're not out, playing Santa Claus, giving money away and helping those who need help the most without making a big splash about it. What does fun look like for you these days?
Right. Honestly, I enjoy. You may laugh. I think it changes like every 5 to 10 years. I literally enjoy just going for runs. Like it's so. I never thought I would say that. I used to hate running, but I enjoy going for like runs to clear my mind. I enjoy for fun, like getting my son because he loves basketball, and so I enjoy working out with him, just preparing him for the upcoming season. What I do for fun is like popping up
Now,
on my
quick question: do
daughter's.
you guys play one on one? Can your son beat you yet, or what's going on here?
Oh no, I don't do 1-on-one. I stopped that. I think 4 years ago I was playing around. I was out of shape, and he got one game on me. I said, "Nah, I ain't playing you 1-on-one." I said, "Let's throw some weight on this. Let's throw some weight on this iron. I'm gonna beat you in this weight room." I'm doing that basketball number. Because hey, Shay, I embarrassed myself 2 months ago because I was trying to get him to play with a group of older men, and so I hadn't played basketball in years, like over a decade. And so I went out there and totally embarrassed myself, but I enjoyed it because he was laughing at me, he had jokes, he had videos, he took pictures of me. The whole family was calling me, clowning me. So I love that atmosphere. That's what I do for fun. I like to create a chaotic moment, and then all the kids just get involved. I love aggravating my children and my family. It's a beautiful thing.
Congratulations, man. I'm a runner as well, so I enjoy it. It's nothing like getting
Okay.
out there having a run, and I'm gonna be doing something with my son coming up called High Rocks, and we're gonna be a partner
Oh yeah,
teaming up
yeah.
together. So I got to team up with him. I said, look,
Let's go.
I'll be on your team. I'll be the slow guy on your team. You're gonna do I'll do the rowing. You can do all the other stuff.
You do the running,
I want
I
the
do the
t-shirt.
rolling.
But in all seriousness, man, I get it. I know what
Yes.
it's like. If we come down to home stretch, the last question I have is, how can folks connect with you? Like, number one, what type of clients are you looking for? Because I'm not sure if you guys are I say you, not you guys, anyway. But what type of clients are you looking to work with, if any? So this is a good time to mention that. And then number two, if they want to connect with you, is there a website? Is there a place? Where should they go so they can find you on social media and stay in this conversation over and beyond the time they have today? Over to you.
Awesome. Awesome. So you can connect with me on IG at Always Love and Lead. And you can also connect with me on Facebook. It's just my name at the moment. It's Gregg, Gregg Matthews on Facebook. It's a lot of Gregg Matthews. It's a common name, but I'm the only one that should be with two G's. It's also my website. The website is www.alwaysloveandlead.com. So those are the best ways for any speaking engagements, for anything that for our couple Zoom calls that we do as well. That's a good place to communicate and connect with us. As far as people, we have a Forever Us couples experience that we are launched. We're gonna be taking a group of couples to Africa next year. Now we've already gone. We've done everything that these couples are going to do. We've experienced it all, and we had a blast last year. Me and my wife went, and so now we want to share that experience with some of our Forever Us couples. So we've done that. You can see on the website as well as on my IG page. And when it comes to also working with young men, I enjoy working with young men. It's something that we're building on now, trying to get into schools to put together 8-week curriculum to kind of help through some of those basic life lessons, like not academics, not this other stuff, but it's some basic lessons that a lot of young men are missing that I also are working towards. And the biggest thing, you may laugh, we just did our first wedding last month in Plano, what was it, Plum Desert Falls, California. So apparently I'm an officiant as well. So if you're looking to get married, we do that too apparently. So you name it, whatever our community needs, we're there to help and support.
Wow. Well, let me say two things, man. Congratulations. Thanks for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I can't wait to connect with you and have eye-to-eye contact coming up very soon. Some people I never meet, but you and I will get a chance, God willing, to meet in person in a couple of weeks. So I look forward to shaking hands and maybe breaking bread, okay?
Absolutely. I want to share some. I know people looking at why are these feet and hands in the background. This is a
Yes.
portrait I did for my wife on her birthday. And so those are the hands of our children as well as the feet of our children. So it just meant about how important the steps are of the children, how the word tells us how the steps of good men were ordered by the Lord. We also believe that with our children. And this gift is to represent the steps of our children and the impact that their hands will have on the world. So yeah, it's not nothing weird or spooky. It has purpose.
Yeah, I love it, man. Good explanation. Thanks so much. And I look forward to connect with you
Thank
soon,
you,
okay?
Shay. Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show, by the way. You have a lot of choices and you choose to be with us. So thank you so much. And with that being said, I always like to share every night, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, by the way, whether you're doing really, really well and the love is all with you and your family, or you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. I'm out. Peace, Greg. Thank you all.
Peace.
God bless.
Peace.
Keep doing God's
God
work.
bless.